Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So recently we have finished the HSR 3.7 main story quest, and it literally took like 5-6 hours. But the story writing for Amphorius was absolutely fantabulous, and oh boy, it was absolutely amazing. I love the ending. Okay, I'm kind of gonna miss the Amphorius characters. Now, since the Amphorius arc is over, the question I'm going to propose to you is like, should you even pull Cyrene, right? Because like since the Amphorius arc kind of got over in 3.7, maybe another one or two patches, maybe 3.8, 3.9, maybe the last patch, and then we might go to a new planet, right? We'll get into the 4.0 series, 4.0 update and all, right? And with the new 4.0 updates, right, there are going to be new characters, there are going to be brand new mechanics, maybe a brand new typing. We'll get to see that maybe in the future, right? So now, like, should you even think of pulling Cyrene? Because, like, she's recently in the banner. And if you do have a lot of Chrysos hairs, should you pull? And if you do have certain amount of characters, should you pull Cyrene? So to like get to the bottom of this list, right? Why not let's see a video from Mr. Pokey. He has created what a detailed series about Cyrene. Okay, we are just gonna delve into one of his videos. Okay, and we're gonna see if you technically have these set of characters, should you get Cyrene, or like should you consider getting the Eidolons of the other existing characters that you may have in your account? So let us delve into Mr. Pokey's videos, right? Which is this, the most definitive siren pulling guide for everyone. So let us see this, okay? And let us see and like info if we are gonna need Cyrene for our accounts or not. Okay? So let's go.
Welcome back. This is I, Mr. Cyrene, here to defend Cyrene once again in this video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a very interesting topic which has been bugging on from my comment section in my Discord, in the community, even in Cyrene mains, I think for the past 72 hours, which is people's thoughts on how do you pull. Who should be pulling Cyrene? Who should be skipping Cyrene? What other
Right.
costs should you invest in instead of Cyrene? And today, I have a huge shout out to Cyrene's girlfriend. I'm not sure if this
Okay.
is her Instagram, YouTube, whatever, but we have a beautiful, beautiful crafted chart by Cyrene's girlfriend. So we are just gonna take a look at this diagram to see what are the overall thought process of pulling for Cyrene, as well as adding my 2 cents. So without further ado, let's just go in. Like, should you pull for Cyrene? Wait, boss, it's a little bit loud.
Oh man.
Good morning, Mother
First things first, do you want Cyrene regardless of meta? Yes. So this is for the waifu enjoyers, right? If you guys want her for her waifu, for lore, for pink Jesus, for whatever, if you play Honkai image, whatever it's gonna be, if you don't care about meta, you don't give
Yeah.
a shit about zero cycles, you don't give a shit about memory of chaos, anomaly, arbitration, version 4, version 3, version 5, whatever it's gonna be, this is the first step. Everything else, just poop. Don't even think about it. It is the exact same for every single unit. And this is, you might think it's like a very obvious thing, but it is very, very important that you don't chase meta in a game called HSR, because the
Correct.
meta will always just be the next version that comes out after this version. It's always
Right.
going to be the case, right? Like right now, the meta is HP. Next version is going to be the version 4 meta. Previously, it was Super Rick. And it's just going to be again and again and again. So when you chase meta, it will never end. Because whatever you pull right now, it will never be meta forever. So my comparison, right? If you main Yasuo, right? If you main Yasuo in League of Legends, whether or not Yasuo is meta, it doesn't matter. Because if you have the skills to make Yasuo work, he's gonna be bring you the challenger whatever he's gonna face, right? It just depends on how good your skill ceiling is. This is not League of Legends, right? This is Honkai style we're talking about over here, right? Stand back. It's HSR we're talking about over here. So the moment the meta change, no matter how much you want to make that meta for this version work, it will never be as good as the next meta that comes afterwards, right? So never change meta, super important. And now we're gonna go on to the next point, which is, do you own 2 or more Chrysos heirs, excluding her and RMC? No, consider putting other heirs first. So this is basically, you own one. You only put a single Chrysos heir in your entire.
So you see, like, these are the list of Chrysos heirs, and yep, so these are the Chrysos heirs list. So if you have like more than, say, 2, 3, maybe consider pulling. Okay, but that is, say, if you have DPSs. So like if you have Anaxagoras, if you have Mighty, if you have Castorus, as in Evernight, Finan, then consider pulling them. You'll anyways have a free Chrysos here, which is uh, Denhang, Permancitare, right? And RMC, okay? Apart from that, you'll have to pull for the rest.
Account, right? You either put for a single Castorus, Mighty, Anexa, Aglea, Tribi, Hyacinth, you put only a single Chrysos there. I honestly would think, at this point, just don't even put Cyrene. Because for the level of investment at this point, you basically have either 0 to 1 cost, right? You have 0 to 1 cost. That's it. So for the entirety of version 3, you did not invest anything beyond 1 cost into the version 3 archetype. So I'm guessing you probably have a lot of costs saved up for version 4. Unless Ika ate everything. I don't know why. Unless, like, you lost it, like somebody stole your strategies, right? If you have not been investing in version 3, then at this point is where version 3 is about to come to an end. Which is where the sentiment of like not pulling for Cyrene because you want to save for version 4, this is like one of the only times where it works. Cyrene is a support for your Chrysos heirs. But at this point of time in the game, if you have not invested in Chrysos heirs, you are this close into the next version archetype already. With, I'm guessing, at least like 300-ish plus pools. Because you skip the entire tree of version 3, right? So this is where I will feel the number of pools that you are going to be investing is not going to be as valuable meta-wise, it's not going to be as valuable as the next version coming afterwards. Like, you will have a longer lifespan if you are already chasing meta in the next version because you have not done everything for this version. So this is why, if you don't own anything more than 1, like 1 or 0, just don't pool, right? It is more worth it for the next version update, right? So very, very nice. So now we're going to be on to, you have 2 or more Chrysos heirs, right? Hold on. Yeah, you have 2 or more, can I drag? Okay, there we go. You have 2 or more Chrysos heirs. Are you planning to E2 her? Yes, pull Cyrene. No, refer to the next chart. Okay, for this point over here, right? Before you say yes to pull Cyrene, I want to just ask why. Why do you want to E2 Cyrene? And I think this is a super important question because a lot of you.
You see this? Look at this. This is Cyrene's E2, and you technically need 24 recollection points in order to activate an ultimate. Then once you activate that ultimate, then you will be able to activate her second ultimate and even buff other characters. Buffing capabilities, right? Cyrene's buffing capabilities all are hidden in her ultimate. And to activate that ultimate, you need 24 recollection points. Here, when you enter the combat, you automatically get 12 recollection points. So, this is a very similar situation to that of your Acheron, okay? Acheron without a signature weapon is absolutely trash. Okay, like she will, in Acheron's case, for 1 stack you'll get another stack if you do get a weapon. But if you don't have Acheron's weapon, right, it'll be harder to use Acheron just as a individual unit. you need to always tie up with other nihility units. So this is very much similar to Acheron, but it's just that it's E2 now. So you'll have to invest into E1 and then you'll have to get E0, you'll have to get E1 and then you'll have to get E2, kind of like 3 copies in order to make a better utilization of Cyrene. But let's listen to what Mr. Pokey is saying.
If you think about, okay, I want to E2 Cyrene because the casual community thinks, oh my god, her E2 changes everything. You need her E2 to play. If you don't have her E2, she's literally unplayable. If you're pulling E2 Cyrene because of that, don't pull. Because I can tell you right now, the damage amplification from pulling 3 costs worth of Cyrene from scratch, it is often just way more worth it if you just spend those 2 additional costs on your main DPS. It can be your E2 Casuarus, it could be an E2 Evernight, it could even be an E2 Hyacinth. Whatever the case is gonna be, in terms of damage output, from like, I'm not talking about 0 cycles, in like the overall grand scheme of things, in HSR, E2 Cyrene is almost every single time gonna be comparing way worse than whatever team you're pulling her for. So for Casuarus mains, assuming everything's at E0 baseline, you always E2 the DPS first before you E2 Cyrene. For Phyton, you always E2 Phyton first before you E2 Cyrene. Even for like Aglaia, Mighty, and Nexa, their E1s and E2s often just always give you way more damage output compared to the E2 Cyrene. Unless you want to chase 0 cycles, you want to 0 cycle that wave 1, and you don't want to sweat about it. Which, I want to first say, if you're already chasing 0 cycles of Cyrene, especially as a free-to-play, I have a whole other video for Treasure Arc in the future, but it is definitely doable to get her ultimate wave 1 without any items. You basically need that 200 speed, which, contrary to popular belief, it is not as difficult as it is to actually hit that 200 speed. So you basically run 6p speed, right? 2 plus 2 plus 2, run that speed, or 2 beats 1 web, and you just need 174 speed. That's it. Then you, as long as you get that 3 actions in wave 1, you are pretty much going to be able to get yourself the ultimate, assuming you run full crosshair team, right? So that is gonna be that for the perspective of 0 cycle. And yep, me personally, I just would not E2 if you're just E2ing for the sake of like making your team stronger. Because usually every single time, DPS E2 is gonna be way more important, especially if you intend to pull Cyrene for the DPS. And I say it like again and again, you never pull a DPS for a support. You always pull a support for a DPS. Because at the end of the day, the duty of a support is to make that DPS stronger. And if you want to make that DPS stronger, unless you're going to just bench them in the next version, then don't even bother. If you want to make the DPS stronger, almost every single time, getting that vertical investments on the actual DPS is going to be way more worth it. Because HSR is structured on like whatever team of DPS you're going to be running in. Like even till this day, you're still seeing like E2 Acherons, E2 Fireflies, E2 Facial, whatever the E2 is going to be. And then once the next support comes out, you can then see if you want to add them to that DPS. So that archetype is always shaped by your DPS first before everything else. Alright, so that's gonna be that for your E2. Next point, no, refer to your Chrysos main.
Pay attention to this, okay?
So for Tribi, Cypher, Ceridra, we have don't bother with Cyrene if they are only Chrysos tears. Facts. Because you basically have no main DPS Chrysos tears that Cyrene can fully buff. So the main DPS archetypes that you have for Cyrene is boils down to 6. Phyton, Casuarus, Evernight, Aglaia, Maide, and Nexa. That is pretty much it. These 6 main DPS. Okay, I guess Hyacinth if you care about DOT, but generally speaking, I wouldn't go on my head to pull Cyrene just for Hyacinth, because you can make DOT work with Hyacinth, or if version 4 gets another DOT unit, you can substitute easily, right? So those are the only 6 DPS I would consider to run Cyrene with. So like I mentioned at the start, you never pull a DPS for a support, right? It's always support for a DPS. So if you don't have any of those DPS, you're going to be minimally investing at least 2 costs for both the DPS and Cyrene, which I think at this point, same thing. I don't think it's gonna be worth it more. So this is also absolutely factual. So let's go. Okay, this is where the big one is coming, right? Holy sh! Let's get to this assumption here. Okay, I think we're supposed to talk to this assumption first before we even get onto the thingy. Okay, assumptions made. Okay, who doesn't have DHPD? No, right? Everybody has okay, so everybody has DHPD. So this line is irrelevant. Everybody has DHPD, so it doesn't matter. You own an E6 RMC. why would you not have easy? Okay, don't worry about it. Cyrene is at least 200 speed. Lock in for your relics, because if she's not, but this is mainly affecting her easier performance with non-members team. It's either 200 or you run Vonwag with 174 to 175. That's it. And okay, speed thresholds on.
Okay, so don't forget the spec. So just like Hyacinth, right? You need to get a Cyrene at 200 speed, because if you don't get her to the speed threshold of 200, right? Then you can say it'll kind of be hard to run her without the non-remembrance teams like Casteress, Hyacinth, Evernight, and then insert her. Without these three set of teams, it'll be hard for you to run her in any other team, say, be it Finan, be it Anaxagoras, Mighty, Cypher, whatever.
Cyrene is
We are basically gonna see, like, if you can make her work at E0 S0, then you may consider pulling for her. But now I'm gonna see, like, if E0, if Cyrene can be run without a signature weapon.
really not as difficult as you think, because maybe you were living under a rock for the past 1 year and you didn't see the new speed pieces that we have nowadays. We have 2-piece Hagerspace, 2-piece Cercados, and 2-piece Hia, with a 2-piece intercept, the 2-piece Giant Tree. So you have 4 different ways of getting that 2-piece speed combination. So you're gonna be getting, at the bare minimum, I believe it's like 360, right? Yeah, 18% speed right out of the get-go. So combine this with Herda Store S5, you are gonna be able to hit 200 speed a lot more easier, compared to back in those days where we didn't have all these 2v speed pieces, right? So 200
Right.
speed is really not that hard. So anyone, you can sacrifice everything, by the way, for the crit rate, for the crit damage, everything. Just hit this speed if you want to get an ultimate in wave 1. So that's gonna be that. Alright. Last but no mention of Islands is your edge. Alright, so this is gonna be for the free to play, right? Okay, I believe we start from. Okay, we're starting from there, right? We're starting from left. Let's start from the left here, and then we can get into the final best team comes in a little bit. So this is Casterus. Alright, we'll start with Casterus first. Do you have Hyacinth? No. This is 100,000% factual, by the way. You need Hyacinth for Casterus. At this point, it is legit not negotiable. We have a Hyacinth banner. If you are a Casterus main at E0, especially, if you do not have Hyacinth, you pull Hyacinth. Not because Cyrene needs Hyacinth, it's because Casterus needs Hyacinth. You have to have Hyacinth for Casterus at this point of the game, right? You just have to have her. So just get this, no questions asked, W, A, what to do. Okay, so assuming that you have Hyacinth, do you have Evernight? Okay, this part, I don't think it's gonna be within the player's control, because you
See, if you do have Evernight, it's a big plus, but if you don't have her, I don't think you technically need Evernight in a Casterus team. You technically need Hyacinth in a Casterus team in order to make her take off, and you have your RMC. So yeah, if you don't have Evernight, just keep RMC in your team. That's it.
probably skipped Evernight for Cyrene. Maybe. Right? If you have to ask yourself this question, you probably might have skipped Evernight for
Majority of the people might have done this, right? In order to ensure that they get a guaranteed Cyrene pull, they might have skipped in Evernight. Even I was about to be one of them, but you guessed it right. But since I missed Ceredra, so I decided to rather get this. It turned out to be, a very fruitful pull regardless. Yep. And I'm pretty happy with my Evernight. Yes, I don't have a signature weapon, but that is for the reason that I needed to save for the character Cyrene, right? That's why I didn't pull for Evernight signature weapon. I rather gave her the free to play one. The very first remembrance light cone. Yes, that light cone I've given to Evernight. with the crit damage, and that's it. Like she's anyways taking off like no one ever has. Okay, let's continue.
Cyrene, thinking that Cyrene is a better remembrance than Evernight. So for this particular point, right, there is no Evernight banner. And Evernight just had a banner last patch before DHPD.
Right.
For this particular point, the answer is pretty simple, which is you are gonna pull Evernight in the future when she reruns, but in the meantime, you can get yourself the Cyrene. Because I'm assuming if you do not have Evernight, you are gonna be running Castorus, RMC, Higher Seed. And then that last slot is gonna be 3B. I'm assuming it's gonna be 3B, right? Because you skip Evernight. So for this camp of people, you can get yourself the Cyrene, and you either replace RMC or 3B over here. Now the important thing is it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, eventually when version 4 comes around, this RMC slot is gonna go away. Alright, it's like for the start of the game, you can use HMC with Swimrick, but eventually people will start pivoting away. Not immediately, right? You can still use for like maybe 4.1, 4.0, but eventually by like 4.2, 4.3, your RMC will probably go into the version 4 archetype. Unless you know for a fact you're gonna be skipping like the entirety of version 4, this slot will fade. So once this slot goes away, and then this is gonna be your Castorus, all that's left is gonna be your Hyacinth as well as this Chibi, right? So this Chibi slot is the one that will eventually change out, and then your that was not intentional, by the way. This Chibi slot, it will eventually change out for your Cyrene, and your Evernight will be put to replace RMC. So your final team, it will still look like Castorus, Evernight, Hyacinth, Cyrene. So that's pretty much gonna be the answer. Me personally, I'll just get it, wait for the rerun, because eventually RMC is gonna go up, right? Very, very simple, very straightforward, right? Okay, so yes, you do have Evernight, and you do have Hyacinth. Do you have Tribi?
I have.
No. Pull Cyrene. Done. Right? Because I'm showing you guys from the guide, from the test, E1 Tribi versus E0 Edge of Cyrene. At this point, if you do not have Tribi, just get a Cyrene. Now, I know you probably think, okay, what if I want a generalist support? I want to put Tribi over Cyrene because Tribi is a generalist support. I was talking about this in my chat, like I think like half an hour ago, where this whole generalist support, it is a fantasy made by the casuals. The casual community wants you to believe that if you pull for a generalist support, it will never go wrong. Which I just think it does not make sense because the generalist support for this version, it is gonna go away by the next version. Just look back at version 1, version 2, and now version 3, right? The generalist support back then for version 1, it used to be Runmei. It was good for everybody. And then eventually, Runmei's role became purely for to break. Then the generalist support for version 2, it was Babin. And then eventually nowadays you want to use Babin, honestly, it's honestly kind of cooked unless you're going to give me her to follow up attacks with like high vertical investments. So version 3, right now, Tribi is like your generalist support. So
I just love the legs you put here for Trivi. Just making it tall enough. But yeah, when Runmei came out, she was the most broken character. Everybody was, everyone was like dying to get her, man. Like she was literally that broken. Even though Robin did come at a later patch, say 1.3. No, not 1.3, 2.3. But still, Runmei was just as equally broken. Runmei was like the generalist support at that time because there were not too many units and the mechanics, everything was simpler back then. Okay, you get your account kind of one like for 2 years straight. Okay, I mean Robin, the moment she came, like she was like slightly better, but she went best with the follow-up units. Uh, with those who have attack as like the main stats, right? Whereas Chibi, right? Her main stat follows with that of HP scaling units. So she's for attack scaling units. She's for HP scaling units. I don't know if Dahlia coming up in the next version will be a defense scaling. You don't know, okay? So like Chibi is a HP scaling unit, and she would work best with Castorus, Hyacinth, Chibi, Evernight, right? But like she was released quite early, okay? Like she was released in 2.3, she was released in 3.1, so that's why she had a pretty long run. And anyways, this was anyways the first rerun, which is a pretty long time. I mean, those who missed Chibi, right? I mean, kind of felt sad. Like how did they even run this whole uh, 3.x series without Chibi? I mean, it must have been pretty hard for them without one. So yeah, let's see. Let's continue. And there's nothing called as a generalist support. It kind of changes from time to time. Earlier she was the generalist support, then became her. Then when version 3 came, it was Chibi. Now version 4 will come later, right? Whereas you can consider Cyrene as few, but for true damage. But what I guess what happened to few? Like she was kind of relevant, maybe till 3.2, I guess, right? Like 3.0 3.1 she was relevant, but after Caster's kind of dominating the meta, uh, few kind of just went away. Whereas Sunday, right? Sunday stuck on because uh, Sunday was needed by Aglaya and later final. So right, so maybe so if you do have a loss of Crisis Hairs, then getting Cyrene might make sense because you'll at least be able to use your version 3 units even in version 4 for at least a little bit of extra time so that you accumulate extra gems and then later get the latest version 4 units.
Eventually, when the version 4 support of either the better generalist for that version, which is a shield environment, or a niche support comes out, your version 3, 2, 1, 4, 5, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever it's going to be, whatever generalist support that is going to be, it will still get replaced because the versions are going to change. Your environments are going to change, right? So I personally don't believe in this whole generalist support thing, especially if you want to think that generalist supports never gets power creep. Because it's a huge risk and a gamble. Because back then, right, for example, right, nobody knew Super Break was the thing. So when people pull Rame, they were really just purely pulling Rame because she had Winner's Break efficiency, she had damage buff, and she had rest pen. And she was just all around a very good support for pretty much anything. If Super Break did not come, if Super Break did not come in version 2, nowadays, you will literally never ever use Rame for pretty much anything unless for some niche situations, you run her in A-Box shadows, right? And even then, I'm not too sure if Rame is going to be holding. Oh, you know what? So that is pretty much going to be that. I don't believe in this. Pull Cyrene. Don't care about this, right? Okay, so if you do have Tribi, consider pulling to free out Tribi for another team. So this is going to be... Okay, so this is before E1, this is E0, right? For this particular point, right? You don't even need to think about freeing Tribi for the other team.
Okay, if you don't have 3B, no, but if you have 3B, yes, consider pulling just to free up 3B for another team. So, you can pull Cyrene if you have a 3B or if you don't have one. That's a pretty nice statement.
Because a lot of Tribi's value, respectfully speaking, the difference between an E0 and an E1 Tribi is that it's incomparable. It's like literally like heaven and hell. It's like the difference is too big because your Tribi's true damage 24% multiplier, it scales so well in this version due to area of effect, due to 5 targets. So you can use the smart targeting thing to distribute the minions' excess damage back into the boss. If you don't have this E1 Tribi, bro, this E0 Tribi, I really don't think it's gonna last very long in version 4, much less like by the middle. You probably won't even see her ever again at E0. It's kind of like E0 Robin. Like, try playing E0 Robin now without an E1, or I dare say even E2, right? So, I don't believe in this. Anyway, what I do, this question only works if you have an E1 Tribi. If you have an E1 Tribi, that's when you can consider freeing Tribi for the next team, for whatever team is going to be, right? It can be your Aglaya, it can be your Diherda, it could be your Sunday, it could be like maybe some area of effect damage, whatever it's going to be. So this E1 is going to be at least a little bit more universal, right? So this is investing in Evernight Islands. I'm going to keep it about. If you don't know when the rerun is going to happen, I'd rather secure the current than the future. So that's gonna be that. If you do not have E1 Chibi, pull Cyrene, invest in S1 Evernight or in Casuals.
Yep. So I don't have any even Tribi, so I need to pull Cyrene and invest in S1 Evernight or Castorus or Evernight Islands. Okay.
Or Evernight Islands. Okay, chat. Theoretically speaking, because I don't know what a banner is gonna be, right? If there is a Evernight banner right now, Evernight would hold very, very good value for Castorus mains. If there is an Evernight banner right now. But because you don't know when this is gonna be happening, if you have a E1 trip, okay, I can say for a fact, right? If you have Castorus, E1 Tribi, Hyacinth, Evernight, at this particular point, you can also consider saving Cyrene for a rerun. There's no urgency to pull for Cyrene, which is why I said in my E1 Tribi versus Cyrene video, at the very first start when I compared with like Sam and AoE.
If you're thinking if Cyrene can improve over the respective DPS, then pull
Their
it.
performances are like super.
Yep. So this is like from one of his videos, right, about E1S0 Tribi versus an E0S0 Cyrene. In this case, he said like E0S0 Cyrene is superior than E1 Tribi, right? In majority of the cases. So here, see like E0S0 Cyrene will take maybe 1 or 2 less cycles compared to an E1 Tribi. In majority of the cases, okay?
Similar. And in like area of effect, it's like almost the exact same. So there's no urgency for you to see, oh my god, will my team fall for that next like 3 months, 4 months? It's not.
A Glad and X upgrades are very strong if you want to maintain them despite not being in the best performance, which goes to Castorus. Yep, no chase meta with these DPSs. But the only thing is, right, like, if you don't have maybe the Chrysos has, you at least get a 40% damage bonus. I mean, it's okay, it's not bad, but
Not that big. As
it could be even be better, to be honest. Okay, that is the only that is Cyrene's exclusive. Pretty much kind of like Castorus is exclusive for reviving your dead teammates once in a battle, right?
especially if you already have Evernight. So if you do not have Evernight, the urgency is gonna be a lot more, right? So it kind of just depends. I feel like if you don't have this, waiting for an Evernight banner eventually, it will still free up your. Depends.
Wait. Even so, like, yeah, so if you're even like thinking about pure fiction, then I would say you consider an E1 tribute. But outside of this, right? Uh, Replacing Tribi, you can technically get Cyrene in order to just free up Tribi for other set teams. Say you can free up Tribi for Anaxagar's team, or you can put him in Mighty's team, and they will perform better. Correct? So let's see.
I feel like if you don't have this, waiting for an Evernight banner eventually, it will still free up your either Tribi or E1 Tribi into the next team eventually, right? So that's gonna be that for our Castorus mains. Hopefully this helped, right? We have that. We are now gonna go on into Evernight after I take a sip over here. So you're gonna be pulling for Evernight. It will be a lot better with Hyacinth. Absolutely.
Correct.
I don't even want to say it will be just pull Hyacinth. Okay, if your main DPS for your Chrysos heirs is Asterisk, Evernight, as well as Mighty, you get Hyacinth first. If your main DPS is Aglaya, Anexa, Phynon, you don't need Hyacinth, because they can still run DHPT. Not saying DHPT is worse or better, it is around the same caliber as Hyacinth. So I hope that paints a picture of like the reliance on Hyacinth, because you're gonna be clearing at like a very similar speed because they can make use of DHPT. And that's the important thing because DHPT is a free unit. So if you have a DPS that can make use of a free unit, then there's no reason for you to pull a +1 cost in like an E0 Azure Hyacinth to get similar performances, right? So I don't think it's gonna be worth it. For a HP scaling DPS, this is a different, you know why? Because you can't make use of DHPD, right? You can't make use of DHPD in Casuarus or Evernite or Mighty. I mean, you can, but it's really, really a lot less synergistic. So at that scenario is where I would definitely get Hyacinth before even considering about 70. So that's it, right? Pool 70, blah, blah. No.
Wait. Evernight pull Cyrene. Okay.
Okay, I don't really know how. Okay, let me just take a look at like these two together, because like, they combine Aglaya and Evernight in one, right? So for Aglaya is Aglaya E1? Yes, but you do not have Robin. Pull Cyrene. Yeah.
Okay. If you don't have Robin, then pull Cyrene. Okay.
I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Okay, honestly, even if you have Robin, I don't think it's gonna be worth it. Especially a E0 S0 or even E0 S1 Robin. At this day and age, the Aglaya Robin Sunday Huawei team, it really just like pales in comparison compared to the aura that we're having when Cyrene joins the fray. It's completely replaceable. So at this point, I think even if you have Robin, you just move for the Cyrene at E0 S0 for the +1 cost, right? So that's gonna be that. Yes, it's gonna be similar performance with Cyrene. I guess for Evernite, it really just whether you have Hyacinth, right? So Evernite just ends here. Then Aglaya, she combined this with Pooh Cyrene. So
Right.
I would say that at this point you already have Tribi at the start. So your Evernite team is gonna be Tribi, Evernite, RMC, Hyacinth. Yeah, Tribi, Evernite, RMC, Hyacinth. Then when you pull Cyrene, you replace RMC, because you're eventually gonna replace RMC anyways if you're an Evernite main DPS. Yeah, this makes sense. Then if you do have Robin and E1 Aglaya, similar performance with Aglaya, nah, I think it's not that close. I personally think if you have this at this point, just give yourself the E0 Cyrene and call it, right? If you do not have Aglaya E1, do you have E0 S1 Sunday? No. Who E0 as nah? I wouldn't. Okay, this point, right? And I saw this a lot in my video as well, where like people are saying like I played Aglaya wrong because I didn't give her Sunday with Cyrene. The thing is, I did. I gave Aglaya Sunday with Cyrene. The performance was noticeably worse when I swapped it back out with Tribi. And I mentioned this in my E1 Tribi comparison as well, like particularly the notes for Aglaya. The problem with running Sunday plus Cyrene is because your stack generation is going to be a lot slower, and your buff amp, the damage amplification, it is still comparable with Tribi. Except Tribi helps your entire team deal way more damage. And in case you guys haven't seen, Cyrene herself, she does a very considerable amount of damage. So when you use Cyrene with Aglaya, right, you're not going to be buffing anyone else, but Aglaya for the one time after Government Mango goes away. Every other time, you are going to be using your Cyrene's personal attack. Okay, in case you guys didn't know, Cyrene can choose to attack. Like, you don't need to keep buffing your units. So in the scenario where, for example, an Aglaya team, you're not going to be buffing Aglaya every single time. So after you buff your Tribi for the first time, and your Aglaya, until she runs off Government Maker, all the remaining stacks is going to go back into Cyrene herself. So Cyrene will be dealing a shit ton of damage. It's easily like 100, 200k over every single time. And this damage falls off by quite a decent chunk when you take away Tribi, because Tribi buffs your entire team's damage. This is why Sunday with Aglaya plus Cyrene is worse than Tribi with Aglaya Cyrene, right? It's not I didn't test, I literally tested it. But a lot of people say that, oh my god, I should use Sunday, I should use Sunday. This guy doesn't know how to play. I play Aglaya since day one, by the way. I was a insane... Aglaya was literally like one of my favorite DPS, even when Casuarus came out. Because I skipped Casuarus, and I still play Aglaya. That's how much I even put E1 Sunday thinking of using it for my Aglaya.
The greatest unrelatable Honkai star rail player that has ever lived.
And I still haven't added to this day, right?
The greatest relatable Honkai star rail player that has ever lived.
So, bro, like when people stand at me and say I don't know how to play Aglaya, bro, it grinds my gears, bro. Ooh, okay, but don't worry about it. So TLDR, if you do not have Sunday, don't pull Sunday. It is literally completely fine to not pull Sunday for Aglaya. Get yourself the Cyrene with Aglaya. Either Hyacinth or DHPD. If you don't have Hyacinth, just run DHPD and then just slip in the Tribi. It is gonna be done. Super straightforward. But pull for Cyrene, but you might have regen skill point issue. Okay. This particular point. Wait, who is this for? Oh, it's for Anexa. I guess you put it over here. Okay, this regen SP issue. Okay, I'm just still gonna talk about Aglaya, right? The regen issue you're gonna be facing with an E0 Aglaya, right? E0 Aglaya. you are definitely gonna run with ultimate if you don't run Sunday. And I think that is like one of the concerns that a lot of like the comment section, the casuals have is, oh my god, he's not using Sunday. You're not gonna have 100% uptime with it. Bro, it literally does not matter, because what Cyrene does for Agria is even when you exit Garment Maker, you're gonna get back 6 out of 6 stacks immediately, which was the biggest problem with Agria as a whole, which is if you lose your Garment Maker Supreme at 6 out of 6, you have to rebuild from scratch all the way from 1 out of 6 again, and it's very, very slow. But with Cyrene, that problem, it completely goes away, because you can instantly go from 1 out of 6 to 6 out of 6. And on top of that, she gives you the energy regeneration, so you pretty much will have almost close to 0 downtime on the ultimate, even after you exit your ultimate. Right? So this is why you're probably not going to be having this issue. If you want Aglia, it all the more reduces this possibility where you're going to be running out of energy, right? So that is pretty much it. For your speed tuning, okay, Aglia, the build is the exact same. Just give her as fast as possible, but compensate for your lack of Sunday, so you need to get an additional 20% crit rate. For this 20% crit rate, it is absolutely essential, because for my early access test, I didn't even run Aglia with a crit-tuned, right? Crit-tuned Aglia. So I was literally slamming on my 77% crit rate Aglia in early access with Cyrene. You will know by now, if you play a crit DPS in HSR with 77% crit rate, you want to kill, you want to jump off, right? So despite that, we are getting better performance on Cyrene than Sunday and Chibi without Cyrene, right? So this is why if you're going to be going for this, ideally really get yourself the crit rate as close to 100% as possible. You can sacrifice crit damage, you can even sacrifice the speed, but you really want that 100% crit rate, right? So that's pretty much going to be that for Aglia, right? Okay, moving on for Anexa. Okay, Anexa, do you own Ceridra? No. Okay, Ceridra for both Anexa and Phynon, it is a definitive upgrade. Okay, I would dare say Ceridra is way more important than Cyrene for Anexa and Phynon. So if you're in a situation where for both of these units, if you do not have Ceridra, you get Ceridra first. But similar to Evernight, right? This is a very similar topic for Evernight casters. There is no Ceridra banner as of now, because Ceridra just came I think last patch. Right, it's last patch with Highlands.
Last patch.
You can pull for Cyrene first, but just know that after Ceridra comes out, you need to secure Ceridra. Because the reason why Ceridra is so important, right? Even though this is a small upgrade, is because Cyrene works very well with Ceridra. The effects for Cyrene's benefit on Ceridra, it is like one of, in my opinion, the top 3 buffs in the entire crosshair. Because it literally changes you from 6 out of 6 to 5 out of 5. Okay, not really 5 out of 5, but it gives you that +1 charge back every single time you hit 6 out of 6. So it makes the entire rotation so much more faster, where when you combine Ceridra with Cyrene, the performance is like super different. So if you're gonna be pulling Cyrene with like a next out of final, but you don't even have Ceridra, you cannot make use of a Cyrene buff to an next out of final team because you didn't pull Ceridra, right? So it is not so much you pull Ceridra for a next out of final, it is that you're pulling them for both this DPS and in tandem with Cyrene. Hopefully that makes sense. So yep, get Ceridra first, and then if you can't get Ceridra right now, reserve Ceridra for the next banner when they rerun, then combine this for Anexa. This is assuming, right? This is assuming you're still gonna be willing to play Anexa, Phynon, or whatever this DPS is gonna be by version 4. So it's like similar to Kashi, right? If you're gonna be pulling Cyrene for Anexa right now, but you are gonna be tempted. You're 100% gonna be tempted, right? You're gonna be tempted, you're gonna be greedy and stupid, you're gonna be like FOMO, you're gonna be saying, oh my god, the new version 4 is gonna be looking so good, right? The new archetype, oh my god, my Kryzos hairs can't even clear as fast, which is completely normal because it's gonna be the next version update. At that point, you need to remind yourself, why did you even pull Cyrene in the first place? And why do you invest in Anexa in the first place? Because the cost you have already invested is there, right? You can't refund your Cyrene and your Anexa. So remind yourself why. Do it for her. Right, do it for her, do it for him, and remind yourself that, okay, when these supports come out for the DPS that are already invested at the start, you pull for those supports before you even think about jumping shit and getting green and stupid and pulling for it for, right? So you're welcome, Okay, so after that, yes, you do own Ceridra. Have you met these conditions? Anexa has his signature Antera Lloyd Cone, and Ceridra has his signature Sunday Ramid. Okay, respectfully, everybody has DD. You can't tell me you have no...
The greatest, unrelatable Honkai star rail player that has ever lived.
Bro.
Wait.
Bob has an S5. Okay. I don't know if I'm being an elitist, but bro, everyone has DD, right? Okay, everyone has DD. Like, bro, I'm not looking at S1. S1, come on. Okay, okay, it's good. Okay, so everybody has DDD. Cyrene here doesn't really matter. If you do not have, okay, actually, wait, all jokes aside, you probably shouldn't claim for Ramen Lycon, but I just want to say from my personal experience, Ramen Lycon is really, really nice, right? It's really, so if you can get it, sure. But this is assuming you have no DDD, which I don't think you're ever gonna get to that position. So you should always be having that DDD, right? And Anexa with its signature and third Lycon signature, this point is honestly pretty important because when you are playing Cyrene with Ceredra plus either highest on DHPD with Anexa, right? You are 100% gonna run with skill point issues. 100%. Anexa is like one of pretty much, no, he is the most skill point consumption unit in the 100% gonna run with skill point issues. 100%. You are one with Ceredra plus either highest on DHPD with Anexa, right? You are 100% gonna run with skill point issues. 100%. Anexa is like one of pretty much, no, he is the most skill point consumption unit in the entire cryo set. Every other cryo here, they pretty much don't even give a shit about skill points except for Anexa. So in this particular point, right, I would dare say Herda Lycon will have more value than his signature if you're gonna be running out of skill points. Because Herda Lycon gives give you the skill points, but his signature doesn't. So if you run into skill point issues, ideally you really get Herda. But that being said, as your Anexa, you can still work. You basically sacrifice that one additional skill bounce, right? So instead of going for skill, you can do like a basic skill. So you alternate a little bit, you will reduce the damage output. It's still playable, but having that additional skill point is gonna be very, very important, right? So that's gonna be that for Anexa, Rare W, and now we're gonna move on into High Silence. Currently bug. Okay, this bug essentially is, I believe, is where Cyrene also activates DOT. I think that's a bug, which I'm not too sure if it's gonna be patched.
Did you just say Cyrene activates DOT in High Celine's presence? That's nice.
Or whatever, but it is currently bugged, right? She's dealing way more DOT damage than she should be, so don't bank on it, right? Don't bank on it, right? Do you have E1 plus High Silence? Yes. Do you have Ceredra? Yes. Pull Cyrene. Okay, so this indirection is basically utilizing Ceredra's skill duplication for High Silence. So High Silence casts a double skill, which can then do a double trigger. Because you can make use of Cyrene's DOT proc on High Silence. So High Silence is her own Kafka. So this is the current indirection, right? This is the current indirection. So you have this pretty decent investment. If you do not have Ceredra, go for double DOTs on main DPS. And do you have Kafka? No. Yes, do you have Cypher? Cyrene is better. Okay. I personally feel, right, for DOT, Cyrene is one of the lowest priority to pull for DOT mains. Because I don't look at it from a perspective of a Cyrene main. I look, okay, all these different units, I look at it from the perspective of a DPS main. It's like before Cyrene came out, you are probably maining these respective DPSs to play them to the best of their ability, right? So I will look at it from a lens of a DOT main. In this case, it's gonna be High Silence. I feel like as a DOT main, your life with or without Cyrene is not gonna change because you probably have Kafka. Because the last video, which DOT main skipped Kafka and then pulled for High Silence? There's no such thing, bro. Right? If you were not a DOT main back then, there's no way you would have pulled for High Silence in the first place. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it legit just does not make sense, right? So I will automatically assume, unless you're like a casual and you just started and oh my god, I really want to play DOT, and you, unless you're like that group of people, there's no way a DOT main does not have Kafka. Respectfully, right? Respectfully. So
But I guess even Kafka did appear on. I guess that Kafka did appear on High Celine's panel, so it still made sense.
assuming that you have Kafka for DOT, I personally would not invest in Cyrene for DOT mains because I feel like DOT as an archetype, it is not bounded by your versions. DOT has always got an update as like a side character. Like DOT is literally like the, if you watch anime, DOT is like that random best friend or that teacher, that sensei that's always with you, but it's never the main character. It is, and he's always never dies, and he's like super fucking cool, but he never falls off. He's always just sort of there, not the best, not the worst, and just chilling, right? I feel like every single version update so far, we have gotten a minor DOT patch every now and then. Version 1 was Kafka, version 2 was Black Swan, and now version 3 is High Silence. I feel that when version 4 comes out, they are probably also going to be adding another DOT upgrade. And then by then, Cyrene wouldn't be doing that much for you for Hyzens because DOT will scale cross versions, right? DOT doesn't end with Chrysal Tears. So if you're gonna be a DOT main and you pull for Cyrene, then what happens when a version 4 DOT comes out? Because you can't be replacing your Hyzens because you put Cyrene for Hyzens. Then are you really gonna be replacing your Kafka? Then at that point you're gonna be going for what? The brand new version for DOT plus Hyzens and Cyrene. Then what would you have put Kafka for in the first place at DOT main? Because I'm not crazy, right? Like logically speaking, every single DOT main would have gone Kafka first before even thinking of putting for Hyzens. Because before Hyzens came out, the consensus was if you're not a DOT main, you skip Hyzens. Like there's no point for you to move Hyzens if you don't have Kafka, right? So with this process of elimination, it would make the most sense if you skip down on Cyrene and see whatever version 4 has to offer. Then you can run the Hyzens plus Kafka plus the version 4 DOT and then whatever something's gonna be. Right? It could be Hue, it could be here, it could be whatever it's gonna be. It's gonna be right. So those are my 2 cents on DOT mains. I think it is not gonna be worth it. Whether Cypher is gonna be, don't worry about it, right? So that's gonna be that for DOT. And now we are down to our last 2 units, and that right. So that.
Wait, okay, okay, if you have Cypher's best in slot, but not much. But if you lack, then definitely, okay, not an issue.
Mr. Mighty would be a lot better with Hyacinth, but still an upgrade without Pool Cyrene. Okay, for Mighty, because this chart already assumes you own either Tribi or Cyrene, right? You already own them. So if they assume that you own them, for Mighty, I would say E0 S0 is a super nice upgrade. Because before Mighty gets Cyrene, his previous best resort team was Tribi, Hyacinth, Sunday. That was his best resort team, right?
Right.
Tribi, Hyacinth, Sunday was Mighty ever since he came out, and it hasn't really gotten any change up until now. And I can tell you with 1000% certainty, Cyrene shit on Sunday. She completely destroys Sunday on Mighty because getting an additional God Slayer for free 99 with 200% crit damage buff, it is gonna be way more important than you getting an extra turn with Sunday. Because every single time Mighty gets extra turn for Sunday, what he does is he builds a little bit of charge. Like Mighty's damage, it doesn't come from his skill, it comes from his God Slayer. So even if you use Sunday as action very advanced, you pull up Mighty for an extra turn, you are giving him more turns to build more charge for more God Slayer. That's what Sunday is there for, right? It gives you more energy for Mighty to use his God Slayer more frequently. And nobody gives Mighty as many charge as Cyrene, because at 12 you instantly get a free God Slayer, right? Just like that. Whereas if you were to get an extra turn with Mighty, usually it is roughly 25-30-ish stacks out of 150 to get a God Slayer. So at this current point, if you are going to be running the best on Mighty team because you are a Mighty main, you haven't changed, getting ESO as Cyrene is a definitive upgrade over Sunday. So I would think that's going to be worth it, right? So you're going to be running Cyrene, Tribi, Hyacinth, Mighty, but Mighty, right? Okay, so that's going to be that for Mighty. And one last unit. It is going to be
Fiden.
Mr. Final.
The only reason I might actually be going for Cyrene is because of this guy. Okay? Maybe even many players, they also want a definitive upgrade on Final. So like, yep, they have Cyrene, they will have DHPD, but do they need Cyrene? This will tell.
Absolutely true. You get Cyrene. This is probably more important than even a Nexa getting Cyrene and Cassius getting Evernight. This is the most important upgrade for Final. And
Right.
if you do not have Cyrene, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Just get E2 Final. If you really
E2 S1 Final. Okay. I got his S1. His S1 improved his damage by a lot, okay? Compared to his his best free to play weapon, his signature does an insane amount of damage. I need to find it, right?
really want to play Final,
I'm gonna see if I may need the E to find him. But yeah, I'm gonna get City after getting Cyrene. Hope that City doesn't come like pretty early. I mean, Final has also come pretty early, to be honest. Like, wait, he kind of got released in 3.4 and this is 3.7, so like 6 phases later. So Cyrene got released like how much? 3 phases before, so I can say like 3 or 4 phases later, so it'll be phase 2 phase. Okay. Yep. So after getting Cyrene, I'll consider saving for Cyrene so I can at least make fine and usable.
I feel like out of everybody here, right? Every single main DPS here in the entire Enforced cast, Phynon will has the most to benefit from getting his E2. Like, I'm not saying that he needs E2 to play, but all these E2, right? All these vertical investment at E2 to E2, Phynon is the one that stands the most. Because at a E0 baseline, he doesn't have enough vertical upgrades compared to, let's just say, Cazris. Cazris has a lot of vertical upgrades in her teammates, right? Phynon basically got a Savidra, and before Savidra, you were using either RMC or Sunday. So to compensate for this, I think a lot of Phynon mains, they see the value in the E2, and they would have gotten the E2 Phynon. If you do not have Savidra, and you do not have E2 Phynon, I think it's cooked. You don't have to go for it anymore. Because at that point, you would have just invested what? A E0 Phynon with a Sunday that you put back in version 2 and a free DHP, which is effectively like a 1 cost team. Maybe 2 costs you got E0 as one Phynon. So if you were a Phynon main and you already got the Savidra, then you don't have to worry about it. You can then go ahead and pull for your Cyrene. Now this point is super important, by the way. Is Phynon E2 as one? Okay. I would say the differential between a E2 as one Phynon and a E0 as one Phynon, it cannot be compared to any other Chrysosauros. It's not comparable to E2 Castris, it's not comparable to E2 Maide, it's not comparable to E2 Eglea, and Nexa. E2 as one Phynon, it is the upgrade for any DPS if you're going to be maining that DPS. I'm not saying that Phynon is worse or better than Castris, but from a main's perspective. Because if you're playing Phynon because you like Phynon, right? You don't really care about what the other side is doing. Like, a Phynon main wouldn't really care if Maide is there, or like what cause do you need for Cazris, or what cause do you need for Eglea. If you're a main on Phynon, you want to play Phynon, you will know the value you're going to be getting out of that E2 as on Phynon. So, I would say that for this particular case, if your Phynon is still E0, right? It's still E0, because the next banner is a Phynon banner, right? It is a Phynon banner. At that particular point, you are basically investing in either 2 costs, right? From E0 to E2, it's either 2 costs for Phynon, or 1 cost for an E0 as a Cyrene. In this point, right? At this point, with a 1 cost difference, you need to ask yourself, is it worth it to get a E2 Phynon if you are going to be bringing him into version 4? Like, I wish a E0 Cyrene was the same cost as a E0 Phynon, or rather the E1 Phynon, but unfortunately it is an E2. And at that point, the additional 1 more cost on Phynon, it will make a pretty big difference in the overall longevity of a unit. Because 1 cost more on Phynon is 1 cost less for whatever version 4 is going to be. So, to kind of summarize what I'm getting at, if you can spare 2 costs, get E2 Phynon. If you cannot spare 2 costs, get E0 Cyrene. For whatever that 1 additional cost is going to be. Or maybe you want to save that 1 cost for like, I don't know, a super rig upgrade. You want to save the 1 cost of version 4. But if you can spare 2 costs, you get Phynon, right? So that is pretty much gonna be it for the entire chart. Hopefully it kind of makes sense to I'm not really checking because I'm gonna get sidetracked. So this is the best team comps for each main DPS heir. So this team, you are gonna be replacing RMC with Tribi 100%, especially at E1, so they're gonna be there. This is definitely gonna be correct. This is definitely gonna be correct as well. You can see you do not need Sunday whatsoever. I would definitely go for the tip over here because tip here is very, very nice. And then this is gonna be absolutely correct. This is gonna be fine. And then this is gonna be highest. I would say if you do get the Kafka, you don't have to worry about it. Then Might is going to be tip absolutely fine. Then final depth is absolutely fine, absolutely fine, absolutely fine. So everything here is completely okay. To kind of summarize everything,
I mean, look at this. Like, Cyrene pretty much fits in all version 3 DP, version 3 unit teams. So yeah, you want the best harmony unit for now. It is her. That's it. Now let's listen to this guy's conclusion, and then infer if Cyrene is gonna be the right pull or not.
closing thoughts for this video, because we've been here for 42 minutes. Cyrene is the pooling decision for Cyrene is not as complicated as you think, because this is a 42-minute long video because I went through every single DPS, right? I went through every single DPS archetype. But if you are gonna be, especially as a free-to-play, if you are a free-to-play HSR, there's no way you are pulling for every single DPS. It is literally impossible. Unless you're those people that skipped every single vertical support and you only, like a DPS account, right? Unless you're a DPS account, there's no way you think about every single archetype. So you just need to focus on each respective favorite DPS you like, and you go from there to see if Cyrene is gonna be worth your upgrade. If you are a free-to-play and you are expecting Cyrene to upgrade every single member at the same scale, then respectfully, it's not gonna work out. Because this mentality, right, that okay, I have all
1 minute. So I'm back. Let's continue.
these DPS, and I want all of them to perform without getting any of their vertical investments. If you hold this mentality and you bring it into like version 4, version 5, you're just gonna end up with a worse account than anyone that knows what the fuck they want. It's like you can't have your cake and eat it at the same time, especially not as a free to play, right? Especially not as a free. If you're a spending player, it doesn't matter. You want to pull whatever you want, as long as you have money, you can pull for it. So the most efficient use of your resource, look at which teams. Choose one. Okay, you choose one team. One team, and whatever the one team is gonna be, chances are almost every single time you are gonna be getting an upgrade with a E0 Edge of Cyrene, because if you chose that one team, you are probably already taking all these pre-existing conditions before you pull Cyrene, right? If you're a final main, you would have almost certainly gotten the Saridra instead of Heistness, instead of Cassius. If you are a mighty main, you probably would have saved up all those pulls that you didn't pull from Cassius, from Final, from Saridra, for whatever it's gonna be. If you are gonna be, let's say, a Nexa main, maybe you got jebaited by D-Herda, right? Because she spooked you, and then, oh, man, fuck D-Herda. You wanna main a Nexa, but you still didn't pull for any of those other units. So, if you only main that one DPS in the entirety of version 3, getting that one cost upgrade for an E0 Edge Cyrene most often would make sense for you. And then you can save everything, go into version 4, and you choose whatever the version 4 DPS is going to be, and the whole cycle will repeat once again, right? So, hopefully this video was useful. Also, huge shout out to Cyrene's girlfriend for this chart. Let me know what you guys in the comments below. Am I making sense? What I talk about what I want it to be?
Okay. Now, right? So like we literally got a full, like what? A full guide on like what you need to pull, like what units you need to have if you want Cyrene to succeed, right? If you do have certain units, well and done, and if you did fulfill certain conditions, like in this one, in this chart, right? Wait, yep, in this chart. So like you can see, like in this case, you have Casterus. Casterus is like a pretty, like what do you say, a pretty depth one. Okay. So if you have Casterus, you need to have Hyacine. If you do have Hyacine and Casterus, Evernight is, I would say, kind of optional. If you do have Evernight, well done. But if you don't have Evernight, fine. I guess like many people would have skipped on Evernight, so you can get it in the next one. Okay. But if you do have 3B, if you have Casterus, if you have Hyacine, if you have 3B, the Casterus team is set out. Okay. If you are someone who's focused on the pure fiction, right, then getting an E1 3B kind of makes sense. Okay. But if you don't have the E1 3B, then consider getting Cyrene. Okay. And then you can kind of get Evernight in the future. But if you have these four, right, like your team is like pretty much wrecking the hell out of HSR. Okay. If you, yeah, and if you did get Evernight in this team, then you automatically fulfill getting Hyacine in case of Evernight. Okay. A glass case, if you do have Sunday, E0 S1 Sunday, very important, then it's fine. Okay. But if you do, like if you have been playing HSR for a very long time, you will have a E0 S1 Sunday and a Robin. So in this case, getting the Cyrene may be optional. Okay. In your Glad team, if you have a Sunday and if you have a Robin, then getting Cyrene will be optional. In Anaxagoras' case, then getting Cyrene, I mean Ceretra, and getting Cyrene still makes sense. Okay. Then in case of high ceilings, you better get Kafka. Okay. You first think of getting Kafka, then you can think of getting maybe a Cyrene. In Mighty's case, you need a healer. You better pull Hyacin, and then you can think of getting Cyrene. In Finance case, pretty interesting. You need a Ceridra, okay? I say you need a Ceridra in order to ensure that Finance remains usable. You need a signature weapon, so he deals insane amount of damage. Yep, I said the difference between you not getting Finance signature weapon and getting his best free to play his best free to play weapon, right? It's gonna be like what, a 60% difference in terms of damage output. If you get Ceridra, Finan, you will be able to use Finan much easily, kind of like you getting Akron's weapon for Akron. Okay, if you do get what here Finance E2, right? Then you can say your Finan is sustaining for a pretty long time. You could say like you're kind of securing Finan even for the 4.x series, right? Finan will anyways apply normal typing, so he will get his damage on. You get Ceridra, Finan will deal the damage twice. Like, yeah, because this guy's gonna let him apply skill twice when you get those 6 stacks, okay? And Cyrene will basically give Finan the ability to damage even more, even if this guy reaches 12 core flame stacks and beyond, right? And he'll also help regenerate his ultimate back to back. And if you do have Ceridra with Finan and the HPD, right, which is Dhanang Permanency today, and if you have Cyrene, right, then your whole Finan team is kind of upgraded. So in Finance team, your priority is to get Ceridra. Then you obviously would get the free Dunhung, right? Then get Cyrene. E2, you can think about it later, but if you do get Finance E2 right, which I will log into the game and show it to you. Just give me 1 minute. Hey guys, so I'm back into the game. So let's see Firen. So let's look into his idlers. His E1, right? Okay. Okay, the base speed inheritance ratio for Kaslana's extra turn increases by 66%. Okay, so for every additional target defeated in battle, right, this increases this ratio by 1.5% up to a maximum of 84%. When using his ultimate, it increases his crit damage by 50% for 3 turns. I mean, that's a permanent uptime of 50%, okay? So yeah, you can activate his ultimate back within 3 turns. Pretty easy. 2 turns it would have been questionable. Is E2 okay? Z2 will increase Pathfinder's resistance penetration by 20%. When he uses ultimate, right, it already consumes 4 Scorch points and gains extra turn. Okay, now I get. If you basically get his E1 and E2 right, Finance gonna last maybe even the entirety of version 4. The entirety of version 4 series. Final exist, right? So that's what I don't have high ceilings. I don't have Cyphera, right? I just want to say E1 by the way. Okay, the damage dealt by duty allies is increased by 16%. Okay. And these Venture, Bleed, Burn, Shock, etc. they'll have a 100% base chance on inflicting damage. Alright. Get it. And in case of Cyrene, right, like her E2 you'll gain 12 recollection points. And you'll obviously get an additional 24% true damage buff. On top of the base 24% on top of the base 24% true damage buff. So it'll be a total of 48%. And in this case, okay. Mm, when she triggers a skill, she will gain 6 recollection points. And this will increase all the way up to 12%. So her E1 and E2, right, will kind of make Cyrene a hell lot usable. I mean, so this is kind of a bait, to be honest. So yeah, so like with this comprehensive guide from Mr. Pokey, so like let's end the video right now, okay? So I'll see you guys in the next one. Meanwhile, you could do is like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more HSR content, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, and hope you guys like got a detailed inference of whether you actually need to pull Cyrene based on what units you have in your account. And if you have this and you're fine comfortable, then you may consider skipping her and saving her for the next year version units, because they'll anyways be broken. But if you want to continue like using your version 3 units in the version 4, then consider getting her. That's it I would love to say about Cyrene, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.